Hey everyone, it's Board Game Brody here with a deduction and bluffing game called Campy Creatures by Keymaster Games. In Campy Creatures, players play as mad scientists who are finding mortals to use for their experiments. Instead of doing this yourself, you'll have your own fleet of Campy Creatures to do the hard work for you. So if you capture the most valuable mortals over the course of the 3 nights or the 3 rounds that in the game, then you will win the game. Along with deduction and bluffing, the game has a focus on set collection, hand management, and some bidding. Let me show you how you set up and play the game. Each player will choose a color and take their corresponding clash marker, eye token, and hand of Campy Creatures. Each player will start with the exact same hand as all other players. This way, there's no advantage given to a certain player, and the game evolves as players use certain cards. The player who last watched a creature feature places their clash marker on the top of the clashometer. Then clockwise players will place theirs below the others. The eye tokens keep track of your score, and they will all start at the 0 mark on the board. Players will need to decide on which creature cards they will be using during the game. So the base game comes with 2 different number 2 cards and have different abilities. But with the expansion 1 set, there can also be some different possibilities with what creatures that you use. Remember that every player will have the matching set of cards as all other players, just with a different color backing. After you have settled with which creature cards that you will be playing with, you will then need to make the mortal deck. These are the cards that you will be competing against to gain each round. Cards will show how many points it is worth, or it might state a special rule of how it will count towards gaining points. We will go over these in a bit, but let me explain the setup. There are different groups of mortals, and you will organize them into separate piles and match the icon on the top right of the card. This group is the base mortals, and will be used in every single game that you play. This is the teenagers group, this is the classic group, and this is the engineers group. According to the player count, you will choose a different number of cards from a different number of sets. Refer to this list here in the rulebook when you're setting the game up. And don't forget to add the stated number of assistants to your deck. Assistants are always in the game and are not included in a certain set. All of these cards are then shuffled together and it makes the mortal deck. After you set up the mortal deck, you will then set up the locations. Locations are separated into a pile of final act locations and another pile of just normal locations. To begin, you will randomly take a final act location and place it face down on the location slot on the board. Then add the number of assistants face down that corresponds to your player count. In a 2 to 3 player game, you will add 2 assistants, and in a 4 to 5 player game, you will add 3. Randomly add a normal location face down on top of that card, followed by the same number of assistants as before, and lastly place a random normal location face up to start the game. So you are now ready to play the game. To start, you will reveal the number of mortal cards equal to the number of players. Players will then choose one of their creatures to play secretly and place it face down on the table. When everyone has chosen a creature, all players will reveal their cards at the same time. All creatures that have a single circle located on the bottom left of their creature card will activate their ability. But this is done with the highest numbered card that has that single dot ability, and it's followed down till all single dot abilities are performed. I will shortly go over all their abilities, but you will then move to the next phase, and that is capturing the mortals. The player with the highest numbered card will have first dibs on choosing which mortal that they want to capture. This number is referred to as the strength of the creature. When taking your mortal card, if you have a double dot ability, at this time it will be activated. The game lies heavy on deducing which creature cards all other players are going to play, and then which ones you will play yourself. You will need to manage your hand accordingly and have better possible options for the remaining turns in the round. Playing a certain card on the right time will greatly reward you with the best mortals to experiment on. Let's go over some of the mortal cards as they will adjust the way that you play your creature cards. The base set and the classics consist of cards with straight up points. These cards range from -3 to 6 points. The teenagers seem to be quite worthless when they're alone, but when you collect the most of them in the round, then you will score 7 points. The player with the second most will score 4 points. The number of teenagers on a card also ranges from 1 to 3. This set rewards the player who focuses on them. Engineers can be good or bad. They score differently depending on how many you end up with at the end of the round. If you have an odd number, then each of those cards will score you -2 points. If you have an even number, then each of those will score you 3 points. This set can make things very interesting and can swing someone's score with one smart turn. Assistants are kept from round to round and are scored at the end. The more you have, the more points you will score, following a set collection point cascade as shown. You also need to take into account the location icons shown on the top left of certain mortal cards. The color doesn't matter, just the number of icons shown. Some of these cards even have 2 of these icons on them, which can make a big difference. The player with the most at the end of the round will conquer the location shown and gain its reward. Whenever a player gains a mortal card, they will place it face up next to them for everyone to see. This is also done with all the creature cards, so players know which cards that you have already played and can help them decide which ones that they might want to play against you. Let's now go over the creature cards. Let's start with the higher number cards and go down to the lower number cards. The number 8 card is the Kaiju. This is the highest number card that has no ability along with it, but could let you pick your mortal card before any other player. The number 7 card is the Beast. If you don't play this card and have it in your hand at the end of the round, then you score 3 extra points. This card is great to not play to score points, but also can be used as a high card to play to have first pick at mortal cards because maybe other players are holding on to this card for those 3 points. Number 6 is the Vampire. The Vampire's ability will cancel the creature's ability to the left, yet they will retain their strength still. This is great to play when you think that the player to your left is going to use a card with an ability that is lower than number 6. Number 5 is the Werewolf. The player to the right will choose a creature from their hand to discard without being able to play it. This card will be shown face up for all to see and is public information. This is good to limit the player's hand size by a card giving more public information for later turns. Number 4 is the Invader. This is probably my favorite card in the base game. If 2 or more mortals are available, you must capture 2. If there is only 1, then you will capture that 1. This is great when there is no negative cards out there and you suspect another player will play a card lower than the number 4. Number 3 is the Mummy. The Mummy will capture before all other creatures if a Kaiju is in play. A discarded Kaiju from the Blob's ability does not count. The Mummy also won't capture a second time if they have already captured a mortal. Obviously, this card is gold when another player plays a Kaiju card. In the base game, there are 2 different number 2 cards. If playing with the Invisible Man, you may discard one of your captured mortals, including the one that you just captured. This card would be good to play if you have some negative point cards that you want to get rid of and you want to save your higher number cards. The other number 2 card is the Demogorgon. You'll return a mortal card and place it at the bottom of the mortal deck, and then you will take and capture the top card. You will keep it face down so others don't know what it is. This is great if there is a negative card or unwanted card out there, and you can just take your chance of scoring something big off the top of the deck. The number 1 card is the Swamp Creature. With this card, you must give the captured mortal to another player. This is really good when there are negative cards out there that you can hand to another player. The number 0 card is arguably the best card in your hand, the Blob. You'll be able to look at all the creatures that everyone has played and discard another creature from your hand to use the strength only, not the ability. If 2 or more blobs are played, a clash happens. You'll visit the clash meter to resolve the order of blob abilities, or you can play where all players with blobs choose their creature to discard face down and reveal them at the same time. I honestly like this second version better. The blob gives you information from everyone else and helps you to know which order you will want to take your mortal cards. A clash is a term used for ties. You will always visit the clashometer to resolve ties with mortals or locations. Whoever is on top wins the tie and will then move their marker to the bottom of the stack. If there is a 3 or 4 or even a 5-way tie, only the player whose marker is on top will be moved to the bottom. All other players will perform their abilities or actions in the order of their markers, but just won't move to the bottom of the clashometer. There are 3 rounds in the game, and when there are only 1 or no more mortal cards left to reveal from the deck, the round ends. The location card is claimed by whoever has the most location icons. Majority of teenagers are counted if you are playing with that set, and points from all mortal cards and possible beast card if it wasn't played is awarded. You will then gather back all the mortal cards, and you will add in the number of assistants that were placed below the location card. After that, you will flip over the next location card. Everyone will also pick up their creature cards and begin the new round. Once the final act concludes, the player with the most points wins the game. I like how each creature card has its own timing and strategy on how or when to play it. The game is full of deduction and trying to figure out how clever the other players are, or maybe even find out how clever you yourself is. I love how the lowest card, the Blob, is one of the best cards, and even the swamp creature has a purpose when playing in the game. I like how you have 9 cards, but you don't play every single card. This gives players a little more flexibility with their cards. The game changes as you get deeper into the round, as you gain more and more information of what other players possibly could play, and what they could play to hurt you as well. You're planning on how to defend yourself, but also how to attack. Some things I didn't like so much was that some of the location cards didn't give you a big enough bonus to make gathering the location icons worth it. With some location, it was just kind of like, who cares about that bonus, and no one even tried or even cared about trying to get it. But other location cards were much more purposeful, and everyone was trying to collect that location card to score extra points. I'd say the main thing this base game is missing is some variability in the creatures. But have no fear, Keymaster Games have came out with a new expansion set to fix this problem. Expansion Set 1 adds a new set of mortals, the Angry Mob. They are out to get you, and none are worth positive points. Within the Angry Mob, there are 2 different kinds, the Investigators in purple, and the basic Angry Mob that are in blue. Whenever the Investigators capture, then all players who have basic blue Angry Mob cards give all those cards to the player who just captured the Investigator. The Investigators are worth 0 points, but will have a location icon on them. Whenever a basic Angry Mob card is captured, then players to the right and left will give that player all the Angry Mob cards that they have. The Angry Mob cards are worth -1 point each. The expansion set also adds 3 new location cards, with my favorite being the Dark Castle card. You add a random creature not used in the game to your hand for the next round. This will give you a bigger hand size, but also an added ability that no one else will have, and they don't even know about it until you play it. The expansion set 1 also adds 4 new creature cards that can be used when deciding on which creatures to play with at the beginning of the game. The Tarantula is a number 3 card. This card allows you to place a Venom token on one of the available mortal cards. Whenever a player captures the card with a Venom token on it, that player will immediately score -3 points, returning the Venom token back to the supply. If the mortal with the Venom is given to another player, then the Venom will travel with it and affect the recipient of that card. Tarantulas are immune to Venom, however, so unless the ability is cancelled, you are not affected by the Venom for the remainder of the turn. This is great to play when you think that you can place it on a card to entice all other players to choose other cards, but this card can get a little tricky if another player plays a Tarantula card on the same turn. The Man-Eating Plant is the number 4 card. When playing this card, you will place it next to an available mortal card. The mortal card is now entangled by this card, which means that it can only be captured by a number 7 card or higher, or a Man-Eating Plant, this being yours or another player's. When it's your turn and you're choosing a mortal card, you can choose that entangled mortal, or if you would like, you can pick any of the other ones. If another player plays another Man-Eating Plant card, then the first one will be discarded and its entangled effects will no longer be active. The new player will then follow the rules to choose the new entangled mortal. The Rogue Robot is a number 5 card. This creature has a double dot ability which says you must discard an available mortal card. You will be claiming a mortal card and then discarding one, which results in a player not being able to capture the mortal. If this is played wrong, however, and you are the last player to take a mortal card, then you will have to discard it and not claim it as it is a rogue robot after all. Also, this card is a number 5 card, so it cannot affect the Entangled Mortal. And if there is only one other card that it can touch, then you guessed right. It will be discarded and the player won't be able to capture one. The last card included is the Monster, a number 6 card. This is a double dot ability card, and you will take a power-up token and keep it in front of you. This will increase your strength on the next creature that you play by +2. This ability will last across rounds, so if you play this creature last in the round, then you will have a +2 strength at the beginning of your next round. There's no limit on strength of what a creature can have. I would have liked to see more new creatures and new abilities, but really these 4 alone changed the game a whole ton. I suppose Keymaster Games would also come out with the expansion 2 that might include more creatures to add even more variability to the game. The game is great, but I hope the next expansion adds something more than variety. I'd like to see a new twist somehow. Again, deduction, bluffing, hand management, and set collection together with a ghoulish theme. This is Campy Creatures by Keymaster Games. If you like what you see, then go buy it.